Okay, two things I want to talk about in the gaming news world this week. The first involves gamers not really playing games that much anymore and more just watching them. Yes, we're talking about that right now as you're here watching or listening to me, but this is an interesting new report. This comes from Medea Research. I think that's how you say it, like Medea goes to school or whatever. But it's a UK marketing research firm, and they came out with this big, 17-page report that suggests, like I said, gamers may spend more time watching games than playing them. This report breakdown comes from GameSpot. I'll link all the sources in the description down below, of course. But according to the report, the total average time that players devote to their hobby is approximately just under 16 hours a week. Only 7.4 hours are spent with the games, while the remaining 8.5 hours are devoted to watching the gaming content on Twitch, YouTube, and social media outlets. This is also not like a long-term trend research. This is actually pretty recent. This is from the second quarter of 2024, and it spans different types of gamers, different ages, and of course across multiple countries. Now, I don't have access to the whole report. I would love to see the age breakdown for this. I think that's one of the more interesting things. I'd love to see, where the drop off is in terms of what generation is watching games more than playing them, because you would think it's the younger audience, right? Glued to their phone, TikTok brained and stuff. But on the other hand, there are plenty of people on the older bracket that are very busy and don't have a ton of time to play games, so they tend to watch them. Now, I'm kind of going to give some credit to this report and kind of back it up because I see it. We've talked about it before. I've talked to you guys in the comments about it here and there. There are folks out there that fell off video games. Either they're not as into them anymore, or maybe they don't have the time for them, or they don't have the money for them. Either way, they still kind of are in that world and they follow along with gaming news. They watch people talk about video games. They watch videos and playthroughs of video games. They read the news. It's like they're still hooked. And I think that's totally fine. Some people fall out of hobbies, but also people forget too. Sometimes people just have ebbs and flows with their hobbies. You might have a year where you play a shit ton of games, and then you might have a year where you kind of fall off or life happens or something like that. But not for me. I'm the permanent YouTube video game loser for the rest of my life. But this does seem to be more of a recent thing. At least I've seen and I've talked to people and I've heard about it more recently. And with this report being the second quarter of 2024, it makes sense. Now, of course, the ultimate question is, has gaming fell off? Is gaming washed? Is gaming cooked? Whatever the kids say. I don't know for sure. I think the study is only so much, and this needs to be a more long-term trend. Again, time in this is pretty evenly broken up between watching and actual gaming, but it does lead into more on the watching side. And I think it's also partially because, like I said before, some people falling off the hobby, but also just some people being super tapped in, super glued in. I know I certainly am. When I'm not playing games or when I'm not working and I'm just doing whatever in my life, I always have a podcast or a YouTube video or whatever running, listening, just kind of in that world. And just looking by audience numbers and stuff like that out there, I'm pretty sure it's not just me. Just listening to stuff, watching commenters, watching creators, watching video games is a big part of a lot of people's media diet in this world. Plus, more and more, this stuff isn't as segmented as much. It used to just be okay, video games and this, but some people watch a content creator that is video games, but they are also their politics or whatever. There are a lot of merging genres. I've seen fitness gaming YouTubers. These things are kind of all melding together one way or the other. So I don't know. I just thought it was interesting and I wanted to hear what you guys think, but there is more to this study because it is a marketing research firm. They did suggest something pretty dumb, in my opinion. They say that the research, and I quote, highlights the untapped potential for game publishers to bring video content inside their own ecosystems. With GamesIndustry.biz also saying that the report claims that 24% of console PC players and 48% of in-game buyers watch game-related content at least monthly, with the latter considered high-spending gamers. So the real quote is, revenue is left on the table. Game publishers are seeding significant revenue opportunities, especially advertising to third-party video game platforms, even as the game market faces growth challenges. So yes, growth challenges is definitely a thing. We've talked about that in the past, especially the last couple of years. Definitely growing pains or sorting things out. We'll talk about that more in a little bit, but yeah. So obviously, publishers are looking at people playing, watching, talking about games on YouTube and Twitch. And yeah, they are missing out. I think any any marketing research firm should point that out. But it's a matter of like, do you take advantage of that? Do you go for it? We talked about this in the past with publishers trying to take control in their own ways, one way or another, with Nintendo basically copyright claiming all Nintendo videos at one point and wanting creators to sign up for like their creator platform or whatever, to the other side. Like it never really took off, but like some publishers had kind of wanted to share information and news about a game only in their ecosystem, in their own bubble, essentially creating YouTube channels with hosts and people, and it appearing very much like an online thing, but backed and hosted and upfront as just the publisher's thing. That never really landed because it's like a one-sided thing. It can only really be marketing at the end of the day. I mean, like, look, content creators and people like me, you may not always like us or trust us, but we're still better than just the company on the other side putting out content or videos around their product, which they're just trying to sell you. So with them suggesting like, hey, these publishers have to like reclaim essentially this lost revenue. They got to like take back from YouTube and Twitch. It's an interesting thing, right? Because like it can also be argued that YouTube and Twitch are helping drive awareness of these games and sell these games for them, sell units for them. So while yes, they are missing out on ad revenue and sweet views and clicks, their stuff is getting exposed and games are getting played or watched or bought, whatever. And this report suggests them like creating their own platform or something like that. What are we going to have, like the Vimeo of 2K games or EA or something like that? Or are they going to start putting videos in their games or on their games? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. I think what makes the most sense is the current existing platforms, to be honest. That can always be shaken up, but it is what it is right now. YouTube, Twitch, all those things are just major drivers. But again, that's just what I think. I'm just kind of armchair guy and not really like an analyst or anything like that. So I do want to know what you guys think. Hey, now before we keep going here, let's talk about today's sponsor. It's Factor. If you're new around here, all you need to know is that Factor delivers fresh, never frozen, dietitian approved meals right to your doorstep. It makes things super easy. For me, this time of year with the holidays, we're running around getting a ton of work done for the rest of the year and also Christmas shopping and stuff like that. So not a lot of time to really spend time thinking about meal prepping, grocery store shopping, and stuff like that. So Factor has come in clutch. They have a bunch of great tasting stuff and I throw it in the microwave 2 minutes and I'm good to go and back doing what I need to do. But all while eating good and feeling good. And they offer a ton of different options, a variety of different meals and add-ons, a weekly menu of 35 options with some popular stuff like Calorie Smart, vegan and veggie options, keto, protein plus, anything you need. And speaking of protein, I've been going for some of their extra stuff, like the protein shake recently has been great for me on the go. All this stuff tastes really good, and like I said, they have a ton of different options for meals and add-ons, so if you want to check any of this out, all you got to do is click the link in the description down below or head to factor75.com, and when you're there, use code 50OnJake, one word, to get 50% off your first Factor box plus free shipping. Again, use code 50OnJake for 50% off at factor75.com. And big thanks to Factor for sponsoring these videos. Now, let's jump back to it. And welcome back. If you're new, this is Two Things. Every Wednesday here, I talk about two gaming news stories that I find interesting. Yes, on the Game Ranks Friday news show, I do breakdowns, like quick breakdowns of all the news. Here, I like to dive into things and get a little bit more specific on stories that I just like. Also, while I have you, just keep your eyes peeled. PlayStation is celebrating like its 30th anniversary this week, and I'm cooking up a cool video just talking about my history with PlayStation. If you want to hear that, that'll go up a couple of days after this video. But this next story actually is PlayStation related. It comes from ex-PlayStation boss Sean Layden. Sean Layden just goes on record all the time, man, just talking his shit. And it's really funny. But he seems like a very pragmatic, practical person with how he's been kind of, being the canary in the coal mine for certain issues in current game development and game business. There are a lot of quotes from him all the time, but the newest one, this headline that caught my eye is he did an interview with Eurogamer, and essentially he was asked if it's worth it to keep selling games to an audience where like the growth rate of that audience isn't like exploding. Layden kind of explains, and I'm summarizing it down here, that essentially if the audience isn't like growing at a rapid rate, or at least the rate that they're spending, essentially they're selling the same games to the same people, And until that changes, he argues that the cost of making these games needs to like really come down. The quote is here, every generation it costs twice as much to build a game. What costs 1 million on PS1 then costs 2 million, then 4 million, then 16 million. It goes exponentially. During the PS4 generation, which was the last I was associated with, game dev was 150 million if you want to be top of the line, and that's before marketing. So by that math, PS5 games should eventually reach 300 million to 400 million, and that is just outright not sustainable. We've talked about this so many times in the past, not just with the PS5 generation, but like how many games have been put out, especially like by Square Enix those last couple of years, where every single game they put out like failed to meet expectations. They're spending so much money and so much time to make these games, their expectations are sky high for every game to become the next big Grand Theft Auto, Fortnite type of thing, and that's just not the reality. And more, it seems like some of these companies are, having a wake-up call. Ubisoft just featured more layouts. We've talked about studios shutting down and studios laying off significant portions of their workforces over the last couple of years, pretty much nonstop. He also talked about the development length and how expensive it is, and also because of the idea of bloating a game, making a game a 100-hour thing. If only 50% of players see the end of your game, what about all those millions you spend on the final level for only half the people to see it? There's so much money being put into making huge game experiences and people aren't seeing it. What would Francis Ford Coppola do if you walked out halfway through his movie? So he's talking about the use of resources and how things have changed, where the early days of PlayStation, not every game would have massive interactive worlds or doors you can open and interiors you can go in. Now you can, but at this point it's like at what cost? Because back then, an interesting point he kind of said was that when you're younger, during the PS1 generation, you don't have a lot of money, but you do have a lot of time. But now things have switched over and a lot of gamers are in their 30s and they're working and they don't have a ton of time and they're not finishing these games. This was essentially a whole long roundabout thing for him to argue that, for part of the way to fix this unsustainable game industry, game development thing is to make games shorter. Now, that's a very divisive thing. I know plenty of people that are happy to have shorter but really, really damn good games, but I still know and I see a lot of people in comments that still want every single game to cost $20 and last them 400 hours. So I don't know what the reality is here. There are so many games out there and there are always so many games being made that like every type of person, every type of want is going to be targeted. Some people will argue against that, but I do think there are just a shit ton of games out there, not just talking like PlayStation's next big AAA thing, but still, the biggest battle there is that the price of games is also going up with a $70 US price tag. Shorter games, people are going to have even less tolerance for that. That's just like a war, a bubbling up waiting to happen. So good luck. It's a really great interview. If you do want to read it, I'll link it in the description down below. A lot of really good quotes there. He also has a really, really good analogy for expensive game development and stuff like that, comparing it to building cathedrals in the 16th and 17th century and then realizing like how much labor and cost is going into that. It's the good stuff. So if you want to check it all out, I'll link it down there, like I said. But that's all I got this week. But of course, I have a bonus thing, just a little holiday chat with you guys. I wanted to share something. I don't have any like bonus link or anything to share this week, but random gift giving tip wanted to share with you. I actually recently just discovered this. Maybe you're celebrating Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever. Parents are often the hardest people to find a gift for, right? Parents do their thing. They pretty much have everything they need. Some of them don't even have any hobbies, so it's tricky. But I figured out a hack last year. There's a good chance one of your parents out there, or relative, has an old Christmas decoration or old holiday thing that they no longer have. This is very specific, but it'll actually really kill. Trust me. So I had to rack my brain of something like that. But like our family always had these little musical Christmas bears, right? And it was like the house's favorite decoration. And then over time, decades, it was gone. Like we just don't have it anymore. So all of a sudden in my head, I was like, oh, remember that thing? And I went on eBay and I found one and I bought it for $20 and I gave it to my mom for Christmas and she opened it up and it made her cry. There you go. That's your easiest Christmas holiday gift idea right there. You could totally crush by just buying some weird shit your mom has nostalgia for on eBay. You might think I'm crazy, but if you're out of ideas, trust me, it's a good one. But those are the two things I wanted to talk about this week, and then a random holiday tip. But yeah, let me know what you think about everything going on with the cost of game development. And should they be shorter games because they're just too expensive to make and people aren't finishing them? And also, the media landscape and people watching stuff more than actually playing the dang video games. I want to know where you land specifically. I want a little market research here for you guys. So let me know where you're at. Let's talk about any of this stuff down in the comments. I've been here too long, rambling. So thank you for being here. If you've listened this long, clicking the like button does help me. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and Blue Sky. I'm on all of them for you, so you have choice. So follow me there if you want, all linked in the description down below. But thank you for being here. I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me. I need another cup of coffee. Okay, let's go.